everyone. Welcome to the Annual Student Government Association Executive Board Debate. Tonight you'll get an opportunity to learn more about the Executive Board candidates for next year and their platforms and plans for the 2025-2026 academic year. And before we dive into the debate portion of the evening, I want to introduce myself. My name is Julia Barcello. I'm the News Director for Q30 Television, and I'm here with Zoe.
I'm Zoe McLaughlin, the Vice President for Operations of the Student Government Association and the Chair of the Election Committee. We are excited to moderate this debate tonight. If you haven't already, please feel free to grab some Toninos quietly and enter the raffle, which is at the entrance to the piazza, and be sure to stay for the whole event because we will be choosing the winners at the end.
And for some ground rules for the debate, each candidate will get 2 minutes to make an opening speech, and then Zoe and I are going to ask each of the candidates a total of 4 questions. They'll have 90 seconds to respond to each question. Please make sure you guys answer the questions asked of you directly. For positions which have multiple candidates will have the opportunity to make a 30-second rebuttal. The rebuttal may only be used to directly oppose the point previously made by one of your fellow candidates. You may not use it to simply elaborate on your own platform. After all questions are asked, each candidate will get 1 minute to make a closing speech. We will move through the positions in reverse order of succession, starting with the Vice President for Public Relations, and the candidates for this position are Molly Ann O'Malley and Tom Tahaney. Molly and Tom, please come to the podium.
The Vice President for Public Relations is responsible for SGA's communication efforts, which includes creating mass communications and making social media posts. Additionally, they are responsible for promoting the work of SGA members, coordinating community service projects and outreach efforts, and ensuring the professional behavior of members. Molly Ann, you may begin with your 2-minute statement now.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Molly Ann O'Malley, a sophomore computer science major in the 3+1 program with a minor in music here at Quinnipiac University. I would like to thank Q30 and the Election Committee for hosting this event tonight. I'm running for Vice President for Public Relations, and I have been an active member of the SGA Senate for the past 2 years, serving on the PR committee for both. If elected Vice President for Public Relations, I will work closely with the Office of Community Engagement, Inclusive Excellence, and all student organizations to promote events and support the student body. I will be consistent in my outreach and promotion of the affairs of the Student Government Association, such as completed initiatives and promoting elections. I will work closely with the Public Relations Committee and support the creativity of our senators. Some projects I would like to tackle as Vice President for Public Relations include, but are not limited to, supporting a local Hamden family during the holiday season. Members of the Quinnipiac community and residents of Hamden can participate in this large-scale community project by donating gifts based on a spreadsheet of lists provided by a family in need, and this will hopefully help to promote community within Quinnipiac and the town of Hamden. And to be consistent in my outreach, I will also create a content calendar at the beginning of my term, which I'll follow through the entirety of my term in order to work with the social media algorithm and increase student engagement with our organization. I want to create an environment that allows students to contact us. However, I will never expect the communication to start on their end. The Student Government Association needs to be the voice that reaches out first to get the most authentic student responses from our student body. Thank you for coming today, and I hope I can earn your vote for tomorrow's election.
Tom, you may begin your 2-minute statement now.
Bobcats, I'm a man on a mission to serve this great Quinnipiac community as your next Vice President for Public Relations. Let's take a step back so you guys can learn a bit about me. In September 2022, my roommate was running for SGA, and I was very young and impressionable. It was my first year, and I had high ambitions. He convinced me to put myself out there and run for SGA as a senator. And honestly, I didn't really know where to start. I spray painted a fitted sheet, vote for Tom, and stood outside the library for about 2 hours with my best friend, and called that a campaign. So I never let the loss of that election push me away from this great community. I've always wanted to be a part of SGA, and I got my opportunity this year. In my sophomore year, I started TEAC on campus with a couple other like-minded individuals, and that really taught me a lot of professional and group management skills. I served as the vice president, and for a whole year I managed all of our committees, oversaw projects being completed, primarily for philanthropy fundraising events for St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital. And throughout my time as chapter VP, I really saw the importance of the public relations department. We had great ideas, but we did not know how to market them. And until we started marketing effectively, we didn't get it. I became very comfortable with putting myself out there to other people. I would speak to sorority chapters, introduce ourselves, and go out on the quad and scream at people to vote to donate to St. Jude. So, as my term ended, I saw another SGA shot on the horizon. There was a spring election, a special election, and I competed with a couple other candidates, and I was rightfully outplayed again. But that did not deter me. My motivation for this role has stayed consistent. Again this year, there was a fall special election, and when I caught wind of it, I seized the opportunity instantly. Huh? Yeah.
For your first question, Molly-Ann, one way SGA ensures transparency is working with student media. What ideas do you have for incorporating student media into your PR plan?
Of course, thank you so much for the question. My main reason why I would want to incorporate student media with PR is because they are authentic voices that come from the students, and they don't really sugarcoat much. And if I see a Chronicle article that is like, yes, I need to communicate that to the student government, and this needs to be initiatives that started, such as the Where's My Water post, which was about village housing not having like water filters and stuff like that. That's like a very serious concern brought to SGA by the Chronicle, and I feel like there's so much more that can be done through there, and whether that be SGA promoting anything promoted by the student media, I would like to continue that.
Do you have a rebuttal?
I don't have a rebuttal, but would I be able to answer as well? Yeah, so student media on campus is absolutely authentic to the students here. These people are learning about how to actually operate in a network and how to operate and spread a message of how people actually feel. And I feel like, honestly, the student media on campus is a reflection of the student government, and those are the voices of students who have the opportunity to spread that message to a wider audience through an established brand. Now, with SGA, we have a brand. We have a great image, we've shown a lot of success, and we get a lot of stuff done. And most often that doesn't get recognized. So I'd like to work hand in hand with the networking companies on campus and really get our message across to the most amount of people possible, as well as listening to them too. Change starts with listening and just hearing people out. And if there's a Chronicle article going around, that's something we need to address. Additionally, it can really benefit most of our senators have a good relationship with that group, because just as we are learning political science, whatever we're doing, and this is our way to practice that, that's their way to practice networking and broadcasting and all that. And I have a couple of great friends in the Q30 and QBSN crew, even my sister's in it. So I know the importance of how much fun they have and how serious they take it, and I definitely want to integrate that with student government.
Tom, how do you plan to foster and Molly-Ann, do you have a rebuttal for that?
No rebuttal.
Tom, how do you plan to foster open and clear communication with student organizations?
Absolutely. So this definitely starts with, like I said, listening. First, we have to know what the organizations want from us. We have to know their expectations of the student government. And we will adhere to those. Now, spreading our message across campus isn't easy. We will definitely utilize social media. You see now with the campaigning, we have all of our flyers up, and this might be the one time of the year you actually see some of these names and see us putting in this much effort for something because it benefits ourselves. But I think that we should change that mentality to be something that this will benefit all of us. So having a banner up to promote another org's event, making something with them, collaborating as a PR committee with another org and say, look, we have a huge platform, let us help you. Let us get you in the spotlight here. That's our way to succeed, and that's our way to build great relationships with other orgs on campus. So I think that just opening ourselves up You see people come into the SGA suite and they just hang out and do their homework. Some of them aren't even in SGA. And I want that to be the kind of mentality we have with orders. You know, we can work with you guys. We'll stay after for a couple hours and put a sign together and put it on York Hill or in the CAF for your upcoming event and go support you the best we can.
Molly, do you have a rebuttal?
No rebuttal.
So, Molly, how do you plan to foster open and clear communication with student organizations?
I feel like one way we specifically can work on this is having a large group meet or group chat with all PR reps from all student organizations, at least the ones chartered by the Student Government Association. That way that we can promote an environment of hyping each other up and getting interactions both ways where instead of relying on student organizations to send us their posts, we can collaborate on posts and work together to promote each other's events and all of that. And I think it's really important that we, we pay attention to where the students are paying attention. That means that if students are paying attention to our media, then we should do our best to promote other organizations' media through the same way that we're promoting our own.
Tom, do you have a rebuttal?
I do not.
Tom, what experience do you have that will lend itself to you performing well in this position?
For sure. So, like I said, I've had experience in Tau Kappa Epsilon's fraternity. I was the fraternity vice president last year. I oversaw all committee operations, managed our philanthropy events, and put together a thing called Teak Week, which benefited St. Jude's. And I worked closely with the rep of the PR committee, and we set up a bunch of posts, and they were a little last minute, which stressed me out, but we really got our message across, and we showed everyone that this is what we're here for, this is what we're doing, and we want to benefit this great organization. So that's a bit of my experience. I've been, obviously, Teak is a very social fraternity, so I've been working with them. Not only that, I've had great experience in teams. I was on the Quinnipiac Global Economics Research Team, where I worked with a small group of other close-minded individuals who had the same major as me, and we got stuff done. We put together reports on commodities and exchange rates between different countries' currencies, and all in all, that was marketed on a website. And our professor who was running it introduced us to that algorithm and introduced us how to write an article, how to put something out there. Additionally, I'm on the Quinnipiac mock trial team, and I am now on the executive board as the director of finance. And public speaking is not really something that scares me. I really like doing class presentations, and I really like being the face of an organization. So I'd say that those experiences definitely helped me be the face of an organization and put myself out there and say, look, we're going to welcome you with open arms. We're going to be inclusive for everyone here. Anyone can be a part of SGA, even if you're not a member.
Molly, do you have a rebuttal?
No rebuttal.
Molly, what past experiences have prepared you to succeed in this role?
So I've said it before, but I have 2 years of Senate experience as a first-year senator and a sophomore senator. I'm sorry for the squeaky mic. And I also have worked on the PR committee with both. I've filmed and edited content for @QUSGA on Instagram, which is our student government Instagram. And I also created the monthly recaps this year, which if you've seen those, it's a great way to outreach what we've done throughout the month to the student body in a much more staggered way, rather than just the annual report at the end of the year, which could be overstimulating with a ton of information at the end of the year. And also, I was an orientation leader this past summer, which means that I am not afraid to step out of my comfort zone, which orientation definitely was. I am always super loud, but in a good way, and funny, and I feel like that's the type of energy that we need to bring to SGA, and I'm not afraid to embarrass myself for the betterment of an org.
Tom, do you have a rebuttal?
I have no rebuttal to that.
Molly, there's a narrative that SGA does something. What do you plan to do to educate students throughout the year to combat this narrative?
Yeah, so again, the monthly recaps I feel definitely did help with that this year. They had a lot of traction, and I feel like it allowed for the student body to recognize more frequently what we do, and that was something that I was really proud of to do. And the project that I wanted to do with the town of Hampton, that's sponsoring the local Hampton family in need for the holiday season, that will be a continuous project, and I feel like constantly promoting that and constantly saying, be part of our community, come to us, and even having an open door policy in the suite, which is always a public space, I feel like that will definitely help to at least break that stigma that SGA does nothing, when we really are a very proactive organization.
Tom, do you have a rebuttal?
I have no rebuttal to that.
Tom, what do you plan to do to educate students to combat the narrative that SGA does pull up?
Yeah, so I think that this narrative is definitely something that a lot of students share because they just don't understand the amount of work that we're putting into things. There's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes, which I'm sure all of you know. We spend multiple hours a day just crafting up an initiative, going to a committee meeting, going to G-Board, and all that really goes a little unnoticed because we're not marketing that effectively. I think that we've done a great job recently putting ourselves out there, but we need to show our individual members with more recognition for the hard work that they've been putting in. Whether it's a completed initiative or an initiative in progress, everything needs to go recognized here. We need to really be sharing that with student organizations. And not only that, like I said, my sister is actually on Q30, and I've heard a lot about how they're interested in coming out to these kind of things. Obviously, we've had the team over there doing the QBSN and all that. So why can't we have a QBSN for SGA? Why can't we have a group that's following us? And I think that would be definitely something I want to work on, is getting people involved and showing other orgs on campus, look, we're an open door policy here. We want to help you guys. So if you have a concern, feel free to come by and share it. And I think that really starts with providing a welcoming aura to the suite and providing that kind of inclusive environment for everyone to come by and share your concerns, share your opinions. And then we can go and handle that ourselves. We hear things in the Chronicle, and most often than not, we get around to it, and someone eventually picks up an initiative for it. And that's stuff that should go posted or recognized in the Chronicle or whatever it may be.
Molly, do you have a rebuttal?
No rebuttal.
Tom, for your last question, SGA utilizes social media to advertise itself as well as keep students informed about serious matters. What new creative approaches will you utilize to do this and maintain a balance between interactive and serious content?
Absolutely. So I'm someone, I like to have a good time, I like to have fun, but I can also be very serious too if I need to, and most often than not, I like to maintain a kind of jubilant personality trait to meet more people and put myself out there to the most amount of people. And I think that that's something I can really translate well into our social media presence. Online, we have a great Instagram, and we've had a lot of success with a lot of our suite events and Bobcat Fridays. So I definitely want people to feel involved, and I want people to feel recognized on campus. Say, hey look, I was on the SGA's Instagram today. So maybe just like capturing little things throughout the day. Let's say someone is in the caf and we got Quinnipiac merch, we go, oh, we got a little Quinnipiac table here. Stuff like that, just recognizing that people are supporting our school, recognizing that people are coming by the suite and say, hey look guys, we're doing an open 15 minutes or half-hour block where we have senators just willing to ask questions and stuff like that. So I think that majority of our success on social media in a creative, innovative way is going to come from the PR committee, people working hard to put together posts, but also to kind of like fishing to reel people in from online into in-person to make more connections face-to-face with people. And I think that our social media can really serve as a great benefit to a lot of students to get to know SGA and just to take that extra step and maybe get involved themselves. I know we have a big fall election coming up for first years, so I hope to market that effectively and make it seem like it's something that's not so scary to go out there and put yourself out there to people.
Molly, do you have a rebuttal?
No rebuttal.
Molly-Ann, SGA utilizes social media to advertise itself as well as keep students informed about serious matters. What new creative approaches will you utilize to do this and maintain a balance between interactive and serious content?
I feel like it's important to note that engagement in general is very important. So the more engagement that we get on the sillier content does mean that we will have more engagement on the serious content that we post as well. And that's because people will be following our page, they will know that SGA is a very fun organization because we are. We're fun people. We are very fun people and we have a lot of fun. And we are also a very serious governing body of the student government. And whether that be being very transparent about legislation that we pass internally, we have to promote that externally, and that's very important to keep in mind. I do agree with what Tom, and we should be reaching out to the people that we reach online and inviting them into our space as well to break the barriers that we have put up about SGA is a very serious organization, and SGA is, their door is always closed and they have their own space. But really our space is your space too, because we are your representatives, and it's important that you all realize that, and that comes from us. We should be the ones that are telling you that.
Do you have a rebuttal?
Absolutely no rebuttal to that.
Tom, you'll now have 1 minute to make your closing statement.
Yeah, so I was going to say in my opening statement, I've really been determined to be a part of this organization here. From my first year, I've been trying to get involved and trying to get more involved on campus. And whether that be TEAC or mock trial or Quinnipiac economic research team, I'm always doing something to benefit myself. And I think that SGA here is a great environment for all of us to benefit. And I think that that's something that I've really fell in love with this organization that I just haven't been able to get away from. It's just this community, this group of hardworking people, all coming together to get stuff done and to make our campus better for a change. And I can promise you I'm a very goal-oriented person, and I will make it my goal to have effective marketing online, to make ourselves fun and approachable, to have an open door policy in the suite, and to really show people what we're all about. So I'll accomplish this goal if I'm elected. Thank you very much.
Molly, you will now have 1 minute to make your closing statement.
I've wanted to come to Quinnipiac University since I was in elementary school, and many people that I'm close to, I've told that story to many times, but it's true. I live 20 minutes away, and Quinnipiac University has always been my first choice school. Being where I am today, being up on this podium, is something that I never thought I would ever be able to do, and I am frankly proud of myself, so I really enjoy that I'm able to step out of my comfort zone in such a unique way and challenge myself to be in this position at all. I never even wanted to join SGA, and now it is a true passion of mine. It's important to note that public relations is more than just posting on social media. It's about building trust, driving connections, and creating student-led impact. With me as next year's Vice President for Public Relations, I vow to keep true to this promise, and I hope that you will all keep me in your thoughts when selecting a candidate for Vice President of Public Relations. My platform will be built on the students' interests in mind, and if I am lucky enough to be elected tomorrow, I will support each and every student in the undergraduate student body to the best of my ability. Thank you.
Thank you, Molly and Tom. You may take your seats. Now moving on to the position of Vice President for Student Experience. The candidate for this position is Tiara Smith. Tiara, please come up to the podium.
The Vice President for Student Experience is responsible for promoting inclusive excellence within SGA and at Quinnipiac, assisting student organizations through the chartering process, and advocating for the co-curricular engagement of students. Additionally, they are responsible for acting as a liaison and resource for student organizations and providing co-sponsorship opportunities with other groups. Tiara, you may begin your 2-minute statement now.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you for being here. And if you're watching live, thank you for tuning in. My name is Tiara Smith, and I've had the honor of serving on student government these last 2 years as a senator. However, I want more. Internally, I have been a member of the Experience Committee this year and last year when it was known as the Inclusion Committee. I am the only current returning voting member on the Experience Committee, and I'm coming back for a 3rd year because that's how passionate I am, not only about student government's mission, but specifically about the Experience Committee's purpose. The Vice President for Student Experience serves as the chair of this committee that I have grown to love. According to Student Government's Constitution, the purpose of this role is to assist other organizations with the chartering process, advocate for co-curricular engagement for undergraduate students, and act as the liaison for inclusivity-related efforts within student government and when coordinating with university administration. While all of this is true, I believe that the true beauty of this role is that it requires connecting with you, the students. In my experience at Quinnipiac, I have been able to work with various different groups of people, which has honed my skills as an advocate. The reason I'm running for this position is to ensure that groups on this campus get represented in a way that their voices can be heard. When people think of inclusivity, they default to race, ethnicity, and culture. While this is not wrong, there is more that falls beneath the umbrella of inclusivity. What inclusivity means to me is creating an environment where a broad mixture of groups are able to come together and thrive without fear or discomfort of being themselves. If I'm elected as Vice President for Student Experience, I promise to strive to create that safe environment because an inclusive campus is a better QU. Thank you.
Question, what have you done to foster a sense of belonging for students, and how do you intend to build off of what you have done so far?
Throughout this year, I have served as a student government representative on the Dining Advisory Committee, which meets bi-weekly in the Student Organizations Week. We're meeting tomorrow, by the way, if you guys want to come, there's free food. Members of this committee include dining staff, fellow students, and our Chief Experience Officer, Tom Ellett. These meetings are a place for students to provide feedback relating to their dining experiences on campus. In this meeting, I have been a fierce advocate for improved food safety and have repeatedly spoken up about issues surrounding the quality of our food. Despite not having allergies of my own, I have become a voice for those with allergies and will continue to speak up for students with allergies and dietary restrictions. Additionally, I am part of an internal ad hoc committee on student government that was formed with the purpose of expanding mental health resources on campus. I've had the pleasure of working with several other senators along with our current vice president to create a survey where we got feedback from over 500 students relating to mental health resources and mental health related offices that are available to students. We reviewed the data recently and plan to expand more on our work in the fall.
Inclusive excellence is core to the role of Quinnipiac. What new ideas do you have to reinvigorate inclusivity within SGA and the general student experience?
Earlier this year, I suggested implementing a constitution writing workshop for organizations to learn helpful tips for writing the perfect constitution. I plan to start that idea if I am elected. This way, we can limit the amount of time spent going back and forth about minor mistakes within organizations' constitutions and set them up for success much earlier on. If elected, one of the first things that I would like to do is collaborate with the Office of Student Engagement to amend some things in the current constitution template to reduce the same inconsistencies that the Experience Committee has been seeing throughout this year. As listed in student government's bylaws, a chartered organization has the privilege of having access to a liaison. However, this is not common practice. This has not been common practice in recent years, and it is not common knowledge. In order to combat this, I want to create a form that would be uploaded onto Bobcat Central that student leaders may fill out to request a member of the Student Experience Committee to be a representative for their organization to bridge the gap between them and SGA. After this form is created, I would like to send out a mass email to all the chartered organizations to inform them that that form is available on Bobcat Central for them to utilize if they so please.
Given the fact that many multicultural student organizations have expressed a desire for greater support as the Office of Inclusive Excellence works to rebuild itself, how do you plan to advocate for that and help these groups?
I plan to be as present as I can be while the Office of Inclusive Excellence is being restructured. I would want to build a strong connection with the multicultural organizations to create a sense of trust in order to make them comfortable with approaching me about any support that they may need or they feel that is lacking from SGA. To build this connection, I would like to work closely with our multicultural senator to ensure that the multicultural organizations are getting the support that they need from the two positions that are geared towards representing them. I am a strong believer that actions speak louder than words and would like to think that I have already been an advocate for multicultural organizations on campus. Myself, along with the current Vice President for Student Experience and the person who held that position prior to him, had the honor of being 3 voices representing students in the search for our next Vice President for Inclusive Excellence. We shared traits that we would like to see in our next Vice President for Inclusive Excellence, and we're the faces of students as part of that process.
For your last question, within this role, the VPX plans numerous co-sponsorships with other organizations, departments, and offices on campus. How do you intend to support student organizations which you are less familiar with?
I am always looking for ways to improve myself, which is why when elected, I would want to implement a system where the student body can provide feedback to me on ways I can improve as a student advocate and as their Vice President of Student Experience. I would want student organizations who I work less with or that I'm simply not aware of to utilize this resource. I would also encourage the leaders of these organizations to attend my office hours where we can have an open discussion about how I can better support them and their expectations of me. I want to support all organizations on this campus, chartered or not, big or small.
You will have 1 minute to make your closing statement.
In order to create change, we need to be the change that we want to see. If elected, I can promise that I will work towards making positive change to inclusive efforts on this campus and within student government. To all the student organizations on campus, again, chartered or not, I look forward to fostering a productive relationship where we can work together to make the student experience on this campus unique and memorable. I also look forward to fostering a diverse community for all students and people who are a part of this community through my continued dedication to advocacy work, whether I'm in this position or simply on the Senate. Thank you to Election Committee for all the work that you have put in throughout this election process. To Q30, thank you for giving myself and the other candidates a means to spread our platforms. Your work is appreciated. Lastly, to all of those watching, please pass your votes on Bobcat Central tomorrow from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Whether that is for me or not, your vote is truly important. Thank you and have a great rest of your night.
Thank you, Tiara. Now moving on to the Vice President for Operations. The candidates for this position are Alyssa DeWitt and Colin Fan. Alyssa and Colin, please come up.
The Vice President for Operations is responsible for conducting campus-wide elections and filling vacant SGA seats, as well as offering professional development opportunities to SGA members once elected. Additionally, they are responsible for overseeing the SGA operating budget, which is used to fund all of the chartered student organizations. For opening statements, Alyssa will go first. You may begin your 2 minutes.
Hi everyone, and thank you all for coming out tonight. My name is Alyssa DeWitt, and I'm a candidate for Vice President for Operations. I'm honored to have the opportunity to be here tonight and speak on my personal passion for this organization. I chose to run for this position with the goal of fostering good relationships and communication between SGA and every chartered and unchartered organization on this campus. As the governing body of Quinnipiac students, we have the responsibility of guiding and advocating for all students, faculty, and staff in so many different ways. Although I have served my term on the Student Advocacy Committee, I'm running for Operations Chair because my personal experience as a finance major in the accelerated program puts me in the best position to benefit the student body. My job as a peer catalyst and executive board role as PR chair for this university's chapter of National Alliance on Mental Illness has given me the communication skills to work efficiently with all the budgeting needs of student organizations, being a regional chair of the election committee, and working diligently with the other elected executive board members. In preparing for the possibility of taking on this position, I attended the fall 2025 budgeting weekend and have spent this last week reaching out personally to a majority of our chartered student organizations proactively to figure out what they want to see from me as an executive board member. If I am elected as Vice President for Operations, I plan to provide our student leaders with the resources they need to turn visions into action.
Colin, you may begin your 2 minute statement now.
Good evening, Bobcats. Thank you, Q30, for hosting. My name is Colin Fanning, and I'm honored to be in front of you tonight as candidate for the Vice President for Operations. Over the past 2 years, I have gained valuable experience as Senator and member of the Operations Committee, the very committee the Vice President for Operations leads. Across 4 budget weekends, 52 individual budget meetings with student work leaders, and nearly 100 hours of dedicated service to students and their organizations, it's fair to say that I do possess some qualifications for this role. But beyond tangible experience, serving on the operations committee has opened my eyes to the many ways we as SGA can improve our processes to better serve students and their organizations. If I'm lucky enough to earn your vote, I pledge to begin streamlining the process for organizations to request budgets and purchase items for events. By working with our Office of Student Engagement and the Organizational Finance Office, we can begin to ease the burden our current system places on students, thus ensuring our valuable student organizations can continue hosting events without the strain of a complex and often difficult budgeting and purchasing system. Additionally, I will also strive for greater transparency in the everyday actions of the student government and the committee I will be tasked to lead. With greater transparency comes greater trust in the people you elect. Without the trust, we cannot begin to celebrate the very core of our university, its student organizations. Tonight, I pledge to you that I will be a caring and consistent leader for every org and every student, no matter your size, strength, or ability. You matter, and I will always be here to assist you. Thank you.
For the first question, Colin will go first, and we will alternate with the remaining questions. So, Colin, how do you plan to foster open and clear communication with student boards?
So I'd like to start off by sharing that it is a collaborative process across the entire Student Government Association. We found, in my experience, through 4 budget weekends, email isn't necessarily the best form of communication with board leaders. They get a lot of emails, and so I'd like to change our mindset. What other forums can we reach out to students through? Maybe it's our Bobcat Central page. Through my experience working with the Office of Student Engagement, I know that we can send mass alerts through Bobcat Central. And I'd like to leverage our operations committee members, the individual committee members that sit underneath the VPO, to beef up our presence in the community, just for our awareness. Additionally, office hours are a great resource, and I'd like to work with the Vice President for Public Relations to better promote those office hours and make sure that we're all available at all times.
Alyssa, do you have a rebuttal?
No rebuttal.
Alyssa, how do you plan to foster open and clear communication with student boards?
I agree with a lot of what my opponent has just said. I think my biggest plan would be to start that contact early on. Contacting orgs closer to budget weekend can stress them out. I think one of my biggest plans would be to implement some form of informational session for our board leaders in order for them to get a first-hand tutorial or just let them get some questions out to the air and ask our operations committee as a form of outreach to let them know that we're here for them. We're students too. We know it can be confusing. Excel is hard to use. But I think that my biggest plan for communication would be constant and early on communication and having an open door for all student organizations to walk into.
Colin, do you have a rebuttal?
Just quick. Currently, in my capacity as student manager for the Office of Student Engagement, the organizational suite upstairs hosts budget workshops already this spring. They ran them a little bit too late, closer towards spring budgeting, but that's something as VPO that I really look to expand upon, working with the Office of Student Engagement to expand and make more prominent.
Alyssa, what work finance policies or procedures do you see as barriers for student organizations, and how do you plan to work with the org finance team to address those barriers?
I think my solution to this problem would be a little bit similar to my previous answer. I don't necessarily think that any specific org policies might be a barrier, but I do think that this lack of communication early on can act as a barrier to these student organizations. I think that being unaware of how these processes work or who to come to with your questions is a big miscommunication step-by-step process of requesting purchases or requesting funding. And especially for smaller or newly chartered organizations on this campus, I think that would be the best way to address all of these issues.
Colin, do you have a rebuttal?
No rebuttal.
Colin, what work finance policies or procedures do you see as barriers for student organizations, and how do you plan to work with the org finance team to address those barriers?
Yeah, so I think, our current org finance system and our finance policies, while not entirely broken, they do currently have holes. Most importantly, I would like to look at how we can expand flexibility for organizations to spend. Let's say an organization has $50 left over from an event in the third week of the semester, but they have another event in the fourth week of the semester. How can we make sure instead of that $50 being pulled back to SGA and then redispersed to another organization, how can we make sure that that organization has access to that $50 just a week later that was left over? So that's definitely one of the policies that I think can be changed to better serve our works.
Alyssa, do you have a rebuttal?
Colin, as the number of recognized and chartered student organizations increases, the need for organization funding also increases. How do you plan to advocate for this need?
Yeah, thank you for the question. I think it's about continuous advocacy for our organizations in front of administrators. I know currently right now, this current e-board, because I'm McLaughlin and President J.P. Donato are working with administration to secure some sort of funding increase. And so I think it's really just about continuing the work that they're doing, but also highlighting how our organizations are the crown jewel of our organization. When you come for an admission visit and they take you into the student center, they always say, and look at all the student organizations that we have. There's always something to do, but yet there's no funding to actually back that claim up. And so we can put that point in front of administrators and say, this is a problem, our organizations need more funding, or else you're not going to be able to keep claiming this as your crown jewel. I think we'll be able to secure more funding to make events bigger and more extravagant, while also just expanding the overall number of goals that we can fund in a number of events.
Do you have a rebuttal?
No rebuttal.
Alyssa, as the number of recognized and chartered student organizations increase, the need for organization funding also increases. How do you plan to advocate for this need?
I think the best way to advocate for the need of more funding for our student organizations is showing the administration rather than telling them that we have this engagement. I think it would be best to find a way to clearly document how much engagement we have in these events, especially with the newly instated Common Hour coming up next semester. We're going to have more events happening, and we're going to have more people available to come to those events. So it's more important than it ever has been to advocate for a bigger allocation of funds for these orgs, because there will be less events with this Common Hour now that bigger events are going to be able to happen at hours of the day that a lot more students are going to be able to come to them. I agree with my opponent. I think that it's important to show administration that we need more funding for these student organizations because they are considered a crown jewel of this university.
Colin, do you have a rebuttal?
No rebuttal.
For your last question, Alyssa, while SGA elections have grown to be more competitive in the last couple of years, there are still seats that are uncontested. How do you plan to run competitive elections?
The best way to run a competitive election is to work with our PR team and make sure that everyone on this campus knows that we have an election coming up and what seats are open for them to run for. I think that discussing the possibility of making a change to our eligibility for D-Board or taking down other barriers that might prevent other students from running for seats on our general board is a great way to promote our organization overall across campus. Sorry.
Colin, do you have a rebuttal?
No rebuttal.
Colin, while SGA elections have grown to be more competitive in the last couple of years, there are still seats that are uncontested. How do you plan to run competitive elections?
Yeah, so I think that starts first with expanding the number of gateways into student government that we currently offer, both internally and externally, whether that be internal positions that maybe you're not necessarily elected as a senator to serve under, but you're still a part of our organization, you're still coming to our general board meetings, so maybe you grow to enjoy it as like a non-voting member, you're more apt to come back as a voting senator in the next election. But similar to what my candidate said, I think it's collaboration across the organization. We're a team on e-board, there's 5 of us. We have to work together, the Vice President for Public Relations, the Vice President for Student Experience, talking with the organization, the VPO obviously has direct lines to every organization, and so just expanding how we're actually commenting and getting in front of those students, because it's really all about just getting in front of students and meeting the students where they are.
Alyssa, do you have a rebuttal?
No rebuttal.
Colin, you will now have 1 minute to make your closing statement.
I first want to, thank you all for coming out tonight to watch our debate. I want to thank Q30 for hosting. You guys always do a great job making sure that even if you're not able to be here in person, you're still able to watch them live. To the students in the audience, your thoughts and your opinions as students really do drive the decisions we make. I hope that I've been able to communicate clearly some of my positions on how we can better serve you as students and student org leaders. And I hope that I've made my experience clear. When it comes to the position of Vice President for Operations, experience really does matter most. I hope I've earned your vote, and if you have any further questions, I'm more than happy to discuss with you after this event wraps up, or you can always DM me at cfanning363 on Instagram. Thank you, and have a great night.
Alyssa, you will now have 1 minute to make your closing statement.
Thank you all again for coming out and watching tonight. I just want to say, when I joined the SGA, I did it with the purpose of being part of something bigger than myself. Now that I've gotten this opportunity to run for VPO, I have every intention of moving forward with my goal to use my external experiences and internal knowledge of the student government. This organization is so much more than just meetings, our required committee assignments, and event attendance. This organization is getting to make tangible change, hearing the voices of your peers and turning them into something louder. I don't want to be perceived as an administrative authority. I'm a student too. I have my own voice and I want to be heard. Thank you, and I hope you'll consider me tomorrow to be a student leader for student leaders.
Thank you, Alyssa and Colin. Now moving on to the position of Vice President. The candidates for this position are Juliana Mazzella, and Bree Bukovich. Juliana and Bree, please.
The Vice President is responsible for overseeing and guiding all initiative and advocacy work within the organization. Additionally, the Vice President must record and respond to all student concerns by conducting surveys, hosting town halls, and hosting the annual State of the Union event. Juliana, you may begin your 2-minute statement now.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for being here. My name is Juliana Mazzella, and I'm running for Vice President. I am proud to have dedicated the last 2 years to SGA, and in those 2 years, I've served as a member of the Student Advocacy Committee, approving and overseeing the initiative progress of all senators. While serving on this committee, I've learned the importance of supporting not only the members of SGA, but the entire student body as a whole. While the Vice President may be seen as a more internal role within the organization, its effects externally impact every student on campus. Whether it's assisting senators with their initiatives, overseeing external outreach, hosting town halls, or simply having conversations with students, the Vice President serves as a trusted ally, a role that I feel more than ready to take on. During my time on SGA, I've worked on a myriad of initiatives, including collaborating with my fellow senators to advocate for food allergy awareness, accessibility needs across campus, and more. I've also successfully accomplished initiatives that have included placing wipe stands in the cafeterias in all 3 campuses and installing handicap buttons in Reckwell to promote accessibility. If elected to this role, I will strive to build off of what I've already accomplished as a member of SGA, as well as taking the opportunity to expand initiative outreach. If I've learned anything from campaigning for this role, it's that staying connected to students is the key to fostering change. I've had numerous inquiries from students regarding initiatives, advocacy, and more, and if elected Vice President, I will continue to actively communicate and support students. The Vice President position should be one shaped by students for students, a role that my past SGA experience, campus leadership roles, work ethic, time organization, and strong passion has prepared me for. Thank you.
Bree, you may begin your 2-minute statement now.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for attending tonight's event. My name is Bree Bukovich, a junior law and society major, and I'm excited to be running for the Student Government Vice President position. My goal in running for this position is simple. I want SGA to take on large-scale initiatives and actively facilitate a process where SGA becomes by students for students. I currently serve as a class of 2026 senator, but for my first 2 years at Quinnipiac, I was not a member of SGA. During that time, I gained leadership experience as a peer catalyst and admissions students ambassador, and had the amazing opportunity to serve as the Connecticut FFA state president.
In that role, I had the opportunity to serve over 4,000 FFA members, whether that was being a vocal advocate for student interests and needs to elected officials and administrators, planning large-scale leadership conferences for anyone with an interest in our organization, and implementing projects and activities based on student wants, needs, and feedback. Having had the opportunity this past year to bring those experiences into SGA, I want to use the skills and experiences I have and the ones I deem necessary for this role to make a real and positive change on our campus. This past year, I've had the opportunity to complete an initiative installing menstrual product disposal bins in public access bathrooms, and I'm currently working to reduce tuition costs for students participating in 4-credit internships and work with the current vice president on an initiative to install over-the-counter medical vending machines. I know firsthand how to be a strong and effective advocate for students, in both inside and outside SGA. And I hope to use this experience to empower and uplift student voices across our campus if elected as vice president.
For your first question, Bree, the vice president's main priority is to oversee initiative and advocacy work. How do you plan to do this?
Thank you so much for this question. The biggest thing that I've learned both before joining SGA as an outside student and since campaigning is that the initiatives we take on need to be ones inspired by students and that directly address their needs. Over the past few weeks, I've been able to gain that insight and experience and gather those ideas, and I believe that ensuring that those initiatives are effective comes from getting that student insight. I hope to personally work with each senator to help them brainstorm ideas and use the insight that I've gained from students and hope to gain from students throughout the next year to make sure these projects directly address the needs of our students and are carried out efficiently. Whether that's through regular meetings with students, going around the dining hall, tabling, holding office hours, or meeting with our senators to make sure the appropriate outreach is done to reach a quantifiable solution.
Juliana, do you have a rebuttal?
No rebuttal.
Juliana, the vice president's main priority is to oversee initiative and advocacy work. How do you plan to do this?
Absolutely. My immense experience on the Student Advocacy Committee has prepared me for an internal position of maintaining how students have progressed on their initiatives and also how they've reached out to students and how myself has done this. I agree with my opponent that we need to do this through more face-to-face outreach. I plan on making office hours widely available for everyone and hosting way more than necessary to allow all students across campus to come and visit me to talk about what do they want to actually see on campus, big or small. We need to focus on everything SGA has ever done to show that anything is possible, and we will work to the ends meet to make their initiative dreams possible.
Bree, do you have a rebuttal?
While I agree that holding office hours is an incredibly important part of this position, and it is one that both of us should prioritize if elected, getting student insight and making sure our initiatives meet those goals involves so much more than just having an open door. I believe it's super important to go out into our communities and get this insight outside of just 1 week of campaigning. While this past week has shown both of us a lot about what students need, it's more than just that. We need to make sure we are being proactive in our outreach throughout the year.
Juliana, how will you determine which student concerns need to be addressed by SGA?
Absolutely. In the past week of campaigning, I've had more students come up to me in the past week than they have all year, just emphasizing how important face-to-face contact is. I also plan on using the results from the annual survey that will be going out this year to highlight what initiatives people actually want to see, because that is a direct conversation through a survey of what people are looking for. I also plan on implementing more surveys throughout the year to actively communicate this. One per year is just not enough. And I think having more surveys like this and also more face-to-face contact such as this will help foster exactly what students are looking for across campus.
Bree, do you have a rebuttal?
No rebuttal.
Bree, how will you determine which student concerns need to be addressed by SGA?
Thank you for this question. Like my opponent has mentioned, actually going out and reaching out to our students and our communities offers a lot of insight and advice to many different initiatives. Something I've noticed both on my time as a student government senator, but also throughout this past week of campaigning, is that our students will oftentimes bring up similar concerns for really important initiatives. Something I'd love to do is think about these common concerns and find ways to implement them. There's also a lot of different outreach we can do to help evaluate these concerns. Students are always interested in engaging on Instagram, but I would love to see the impact we have by going and talking to students through tabling and outreach events, just talking to them on their way to class or in the student center, and finding other ways to actively gain insight of what they actually want to see. Using this, I'd be able to kind of prioritize what initiatives we need to focus on and how to make sure they are effectively done and completed by our student government.
Juliana, do you have a rebuttal?
No rebuttal.
Bree, what new ideas do you have for collecting student feedback in regard to initiative work, and how will you keep students informed of progress made on such feedback?
Thank you for this question. There was a really amazing point that was made a little bit earlier in the debate that SGA needs to balance our serious outreach with our silly outreach too. I think that initiative work really balances well into this tradition and idea. There are great ways to get students involved in a more fun and upbeat way, like having cue card trivia spin-offs with our SGA members, going out and meeting with students, having giveaways and raffles. That's a really fun and engaging way to get students involved and offer that feedback. But it's also just as effective to have more serious conversations through events like town halls, going up to students and asking them their opinions, and finding different ways to actually gather that feedback. Those are all different methods that I would love to implement to make that change happen on our campus.
Juliana, do you have a rebuttal?
No rebuttal.
Juliana, what new ideas do you have for collecting student feedback in regard to initiative work, and how will you keep students informed of progress made on such feedback?
I was also planning on harping on the silly aspect, so I love that it was already brought up. I have been told by people across campus that SGA is quote-unquote scary, and we are scary individuals to come and talk to. I understand that you feel like that, and I'm sorry you feel like that because that's never our intention. We need to emphasize that we are students, we are people, we have a sense of humor, we love to have fun, and we also need to do that with how we are connecting with students and grabbing their feedback. While our outreach efforts have increased in the last year, as I said previously, with surveys and other means as well, we will need to get more student feedback. And the best way to also do this is just inform them of what we've already done as SGA. We can make more students feel comfortable coming to us if they see what they'd like to be done, because they know SGA already has the tools and resources to actively create change. Building off of this trust that has already been established is key to maintaining this change while also being people and having fun while doing it.
Bree, do you have a rebuttal? Juliana, for your last question, how have you held yourself accountable, and how do you plan to hold others accountable regarding initiatives?
Thank you. I have been very fortunate to serve in 2 positions this year as the SGA historian and internally elected role that my fellow senators have trusted me to take on. And in this role, I have had to have numerous additional meetings with the president and other senators to keep an updated look on their initiative progress and what they've completed and how we can promote that to the university. So that already additional level of work has kept me accountable to myself. I also have multiple external committee outreach through my role as the Health, Wellness, and Accessibility Senator, and having about 5 to 7 additional meetings each week to make sure that I am talking to members of the communities that connect well to student wellness and accessibility, as well as other demographics on campus. I also am ready to put as much time as possible into this role. It is a 24/7 role. It's not just when I come in, I'm here to do work. You reach out to me at midnight, maybe I won't get back immediately, but I will get back to you because I care about you and I care about anyone that's here, and I want you to succeed, and I will be your friend and ally through this, and I want to see you succeed, and I promise I will be right there with you every step of the way.
Bree, do you have a rebuttal?
No rebuttal.
Bree, how have you held yourself accountable, and how do you plan to hold others accountable regarding initiatives?
Initiatives are a huge part of the work that SGA does. It is important that we hold ourselves accountable to the student body and to our own governing association to make sure that the promises and projects we are taking on actually happen. Holding myself accountable has been a huge part of what I do. I really pride myself on being involved in multiple areas on campus, and I think I've become a stronger member of SGA for that. I find that relying on the people around me is a huge part of that, and I really want to emphasize that working with SGA senators and with students alike. Having an open line of communication and setting clear expectations is a huge part of that for me. That is something I would love to bring to this role. For example, including specific deadlines and times that things need to be done in. Providing in-person review sessions, one-on-one meetings are a great way to make that happen. I would love to utilize my office hours, email, and other opportunities to be that support for students and for senators, not only to hold each other accountable, but to make sure the work we're doing is of the quality and standard we expect of our student government.
Juliana, do you have a rebuttal?
Just very quickly to one point, the deadline point, I would just want to emphasize that I understand we're all students. Holding people to deadlines may not be the best way to promote change and to help keep them accountable, but working with them to maybe set deadlines together might be a little bit better in helping them stay on track with their initiatives.
Bree, you will have 1 minute to make your closing statement.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming out tonight to this event. It's been awesome to connect with you in this manner, and I would love to speak with you after if you have any further questions about the Vice President role. Throughout my time on SGA, I have had the opportunity to work closely with the current Vice President through collaboration on an over-the-counter vending machine initiative and as an active member of the Student Advocacy Committee. I believe that the work I have done within student government has laid a solid foundation for making a real impact on and through student experience, and that the experiences I have had in and outside of our organization will further help me achieve that goal. If elected, I commit to actively seeking out and implementing the feedback and ideas of students in the work that SGA does, and to give all students a seat at the table in making a real change at our university. Thank you.
Juliana, you will have 1 minute to make your closing statement.
As previously mentioned, if I've learned anything from campaigning for this role, it's that staying connected to students is key. As Vice President, I will plan to maintain effective communication to all students, not just senators on SGA. Having been elected as a first-year senator, health, wellness, and accessibility senator, and historian, my track record proves my dedication and your trust in me to serve as Vice President. In addition, I currently serve as president of the Quinnipiac Political Science Association and secretary of the Pre-Law Society. All of these roles have allowed me to maintain a close connection to the student body inside and out of SGA, as well as actively work with the current Vice President. If elected, I promise to continue to advocate for all students, but more importantly, act as an ally and a partner to foster change across the KU community. Thank you for your time tonight. Please come up to me with any questions, and I hope I earn your vote tomorrow for your SGA Vice President.
Thank you, Bree and Juliana. Now moving on to the position of president. The candidate for this position is Zach McConnell.
The SGA president is responsible for advocating for student wants, needs, and interests to administrators and the board of trustees. Additionally, they are responsible for coordinating the allocation of SGA's capital funds, overseeing cabinet chairs and the rest of the executive board, and training SGA members. Zach, you may begin your 2-minute statement now.
I want to start off by thanking Q30 and the election committee for hosting this wonderful event tonight. Hello, everyone. For those of you who might not know me, my name is Zachary O'Connell. I'm currently finishing my second year of my 3+1 Mechanical Engineering Accelerated MBA program. Ever since I came to Quinnipiac, I have been involved in student organizations in all aspects of our campus. Whether this be through my philanthropic efforts on the 1929 Scholarship Fund, or as a member of Tall Kappa Epsilon, or through my advocacy as the first-year advisory board member and in student government. I have worked since the beginning to foster a sense of community and campus pride here at Quinnipiac. My goals for this semester fall under various categories. First, I want to increase our transparency and accountability, not only on university level, but within student government. One way to do this is by creating easier access to university policies and having student government representatives do more frequent and intentional outreach. I also want to work to increase productivity within student government, ensuring the initiatives we are working on bring positive and lasting change to our students, and reaching as many students as we can here on campus. Lastly, I want to address an often overlooked valuable resource. I want to build on the lasting connection Quinnipiac has to the town of Hamden and strengthen the mutual support they have for our students. I want to thank you all again for being here and considering me for the position of student government president.
how will you address it?
To me, the biggest challenge facing our university and students specifically right now is the challenge of university transparency. I believe we've improved this issue over time, but there's still a lot of work to be done. One thing that I would do to solve this is condensing our conduct policies as well as residential life policies. I've worked with the previous Director of Conduct and Community Standards, and I'm excited to continue this work with our current Director in more publication of the student handbook and making it easier for students to go on and see the information quickly. I want to try this similar path with residential life, outlining what a room reassignment looks like and what clear timelines students can expect for other issue resolutions. I'm excited to work in conjunction with our new president of the university to maintain student representation in university committees as well.
The SGA capital expenditures process impacts students on a daily basis. What is your opinion on how this process has been handled in the past, and what improvements do you have planned?
So far, this past year, I've been really satisfied with the fact that we've now had a section of it sectioned off for flexible funding, but there's still much work to be done on it. On the student side, I really want to build on the structure we have so far, working groups for students to get to know what the capital expenditure process is like and how they can use it to support them as students. This includes making sure that all student organizations are represented in some capacity, whether that's holding more focus groups or whether that's holding more intentionally based focus groups on certain organizations. The groups that we are addressing need to be, they need to be certain groups who have been underrepresented in the past, and we need to be intentional about the groups we're reaching. I'm excited to work with the rest of the executive board they've elected to get that intentional outreach down.
Zach, this question was asked to candidates for the Vice President of Public Relations previously. There's a constant narrative that SGA vote does nothing. What do you plan to do to educate students throughout the year to combat this narrative?
So I have a couple ideas on this topic. One of my main ones is sending monthly emails from myself as the president, if elected, giving updates to students on what SGA is working on, because to me, it's not a problem of execution. Yes, there is work to be done in streamlining our processes, but really it's building on our communication to students of the work we're doing, because it is essential work. And sending these emails to students, giving them updates monthly on what we're doing, who they can reach out to, how we can support them, whether that be advocating for them or helping them with their own self-advocacy. I think also an absence of communication in general is always going to be perceived negatively, and I think that's what is the case here, is we are not doing our best effort to reach our students. I think that's what we really should be working on. I'm excited to work, if elected, with the Vice President of Public Relations to address this issue.
For your last question, Zach, how do you plan to balance the wants and needs of students while maintaining a good relationship with the administration?
So obviously, as I previously stated, it really comes down to ensuring transparency through the channels of the university administration to the students, whether that be through me or any other channel. But to me, on the flip side, bringing student concerns to the administration, it really focuses on the issue of telling the why. Why are students bringing this issue? What is their motivation for wanting this need? And I think that's really what I want to focus on when telling administration, because the most impactful reasoning for a need is always based on the emotion, the passion behind it, and that's really what I want to address here, is showing the administration why students want it, and also trying things. We don't know what's going to work until we try, and trying intentionally with the intention to get it successful and then build off of that structure.
You will now have 1 minute to make your closing statement.
Throughout my previous time on student government, I have served as the leader of my cabinet in both the first year and sophomore classes. However, I am ready to step up and serve as the leader of this organization. I've always been and will remain an advocate for student voices. I want to make SGA more student-focused in my term. This can be through constant check-ins with students on the initiatives we are working on or addressing the needs that they have. This could even be offering clarity on initiatives that SGA is working on or university policies that directly impact our students and the wider student body. So far, I've had a variety of leadership experiences here on campus throughout my various activities, whether that be as an orientation leader or being a member on the 1929 Fund or even class president. I want to use this experience to make SGA more impactful in every aspect of our students' lives. And let's do it together. So I want to thank you for coming out tonight, and thank you for considering me and casting your vote for me as SGA president tomorrow.
Thank you, Zach. Thank you all for coming out tonight. We hope you all got the chance to learn more about each of the candidates and their platforms. Another thank you to all the executive board candidates who are participating tonight.
Also, a huge thank you to Q30 TV for partnering with us on this great event. Make sure to cast your vote tomorrow between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. on Bobcat Central. All undergraduate students will be able to vote, and if you have any questions, feel free to stop by at the election committee table outside the Royal Hanson Student Center. We hope you had a great night.